Today's first, I want to talk about the second reading from the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews, traditionally kind of unknown as authorship, then thought of as St. Paul, and now kind of unknown as authorship, but there with the writings of St. Paul, so maybe a traveling companion of St. Paul who wrote it. But it's two things. It's a exhortation and it's a catechesis. It's an exhortation because the people in Rome, the emperors of Rome, were beginning to persecute the Christians. Initially, the Christians were there with the Jews, but eventually there begins to be this split over time because either Jesus is the Messiah or Jesus is not the Messiah. And so there's going to be difficulty trying to keep that cohesion together based on that. So over time, they begin to split off. And what happens, the Jews have a greater amount of religious freedom from the time of Julius Caesar onward. They have much more religious freedom. They do not have to worship the emperor. Other religions like Christianity and other minority religions within the empire, it's fine. You can do whatever you want, but you also have to worship Caesar as God here on earth. So just go, do whatever you want, go, do your own religion, but then, oh, by the way, just go over and throw some incense on the statue of Caesar. And so there is always that, the thought of apostasy, either going to go and to actually provide that incense to Caesar to prevent either death or imprisonment or confiscation of goods and houses and farms and those kind of things. So to prevent that, we'll do that. Or maybe that temptation to go back to Judaism and to have those protections. So it's an exhortation, but it's also a catechesis that the author says that it's not the blood of bulls and goats in the temple, the sacrifice of the Day of Atonement that's going to bring forgiveness of sins. It's that one perfect sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. So that's where our forgiveness comes from. So remain fast, hold fast, even in the face of persecutions and trials and difficulties, to hold fast. In the gospel, what you have is that you have two people, you have two rabbis who are very respected at the time with varying opinions on divorce. One who says you can divorce your wife for any particular purpose, and the other says, no, it has to be absolutely a very serious need for the divorce. So they say to Jesus, which camp are you in? And what Jesus does is that he goes to the book of Genesis and says that it is that the two become one flesh. But it was from the hardness of heart that you have divorce, and that Moses permitted divorce because of the hardness of heart. And so you certainly see beautiful marriages, but you also in priesthood see the hardness of heart, either on one side or the other side or both. You see that hardness of heart where selfishness, pleasure, money, all these kind of things of the world today begin to put that wedge into that marriage and begin to destroy the marriage. But the one thing about it is that we also see those beautiful marriages and we celebrate those where it's not just, as Bishop Robert Barron says, not just that love, but it's that wanting to be married in the church because of that love of the Trinity. The Father who loves the Son loves the Father, and that love between the two brings forth or issues forth the Holy Spirit. So too the love of the husband and the wife was being open to life and to giving forth new life as an outcome of their love for one another. The other thing about it is really, when we think about the Trinity, is that idea also of Jesus, their sacrifice. And so I've seen in my 20 years of priesthood, seen people who are willing to make sacrifices, whether it be the husband who leaves their home country and their wife and their kids to come to the United States to provide a better future for them. So working to try to get a better future for them, and then taking out the papers to have the the wife and the kids come over. So I've seen that. I've also seen, one parish where the woman was working for a very high-powered law firm. But the problem was with that is that it was mandatory overtime and a lot of mandatory overtime. And so it would really, in the end, would destroy the family. So willingness to take another position, to be able to spend more time with the family. So that idea of sacrifice. And so we've seen, beautiful couples who still love each other after 50, 60, or 70 years. We've seen that. We also see young couples who are idealistic in their love for one another and willing to have God come into their marriage, that they might have sacrifice and they might not just think about themselves, but also that wider life that they are to have in common. And so we think about that when we think about marriage. And so one of the things about this gospel is that the people were like, okay, which camp are you on? Are you on the one rabbi who says you can divorce your wife for any purpose? Or are you in the other camp that says it has to be for a serious purpose? And so what Jesus does is that he said, no, from the beginning, it was the two becoming that one flesh, sacrificing their desires and needs and wants for the greater good of the couple themselves, and be showing that sacrifice of love for one another. Thanks, and God bless.